This video is help for lesson 1245 on Sparks. The objective is to find the equation of a straight line graph. So when you find the equation of a straight line graph, it is initially going to be in a form of y equals mx plus c. Now you need to understand where you have y equals mx plus c, m is a number that represents the gradient, so that tells you how steep the line is, and c tells you the y-intercept, so basically where that line crosses through the y-axis, which is this one. So the y-intercept is the easier one to find. As you can see on this one, it is going to be there. So that is y is equal to -5. C is equal to -5. So the y-intercept is -5. Now, the slightly more difficult thing to do is finding the gradient. So what you need to do is look at your line and find 2 points where you can read off the coordinates exactly. So for example, I am going to look at this one here and then find the next one going off this line that is like that. So I can read off this one here is 3 and 4. So this here. So now what I am going to do is draw a triangle on that line like so. And I will look at how long those sides are. So this side length here is, now you can see that the y-axis goes up in 1, so I can actually count the squares. But if that doesn't happen, then you need to look at it goes from 1 all the way up to 4, so the distance there is 3. And then here it goes from 2 to 3, so the distance there is 1. Now the gradient is equal to the y change over the x change, or some people call it rise over run. Now the y change is basically this distance that we looked at along the y-axis, so that one is 3. So the gradient is equal to 3 over, and the x change is this horizontal distance that we calculated is 1. So that gives us the gradient is 3. 3 over 1 is equal to 3. So now I can say that m is equal to 3. And there we go. All you have left to do is put the equation together. So the equation is y equals, now mx is 3x because we just said that m was 3. And then the plus c bit is going to be the y-intercept, which is here, -5. So the equation of this particular line is y equals 3x minus 5. Now we can see that the gradient is going to be a +3 from the fact that this line is going upwards if you go from left to right. Now, here's another question which wants you to do the same thing. We've got, what is the equation of line L? Give your answer in the form of y equals mx plus c. So I'm going to do this as well, but if you want to give it a go, maybe pause the video here and then you can check against my answer. So as you can see on here, the y-axis doesn't go up in ones, neither does the x-axis, so we need to be careful when we do the gradient. Now let's start with y equals mx plus c is what we want. So start with the y-intercept, which is easier. Now this one here is going to be 40. So we definitely have y equals something plus 40. So what we need here is just the gradient. So we can put the x in there as well. We just need to find the gradient. So now the gradient, as we said earlier, is the y change over the x change, or divided by the x change. And then you need to find a place where you can draw a triangle over your line. So here's one point that I can read off exact coordinates for. So what I mean is it's not like sort of halfway between squares, it's exactly on the corners. And then if I carry on, the next one is here. Now, here's the triangle then. And be careful here, because the numbers don't go up in one on either axis. So when you say going from here to here, it's not 1. Because as you can see, we go from 10 up to there is 20. So up to here is going to be 5. So the length of this one, the actual length of this one is 5. And then here is again different. We go from minus 20 to minus 50. So that is a 30. Now, if you start with the exchange, from that line you go to the right, so that's a positive 5. So the gradient, the denominator is a positive 5. But then from that point, to get back to the line and following your triangle, you need to go down 30. So the y change is actually a negative 30. And this is what's going to create a negative gradient, which means that the line is going down as opposed to up from the earlier question when you go from left to right. So this one is going to be a minus 6. So all you've got to do is put that back in here. So the equation of this line is minus 6x plus 40. Now if you tried it by yourself, I really hope you got it right. And there is one more example that I will go through. So again, if you wish to, you can give it a go before you look at what I'm doing. So first of all, let's write it out. Y equals mx plus c. And start with c, which is the y-intercept. So we can see that on here is the minus 9. So y is equal to, I still don't know the gradient, x plus minus 9. But then instead of this, we will just write y equals x minus 9. And then we need to find the gradient here quickly. So, find 2 points. Here we are going up in 1, so that will be easy to calculate for the triangle lengths. And here we go up in 3, so we need to be careful again. Now, if we go for this point here, and then as you go along, you've got another one up here. So now your triangle is a little bit larger. There it is. And we just need to find the length of those two sides. So this one goes from 3 all the way up to 6. So that is a distance of 3. And this one goes from 3 all the way up to 15. So from 3 to 15, that is a distance of 12. So now the gradient is equal to the y change over the x change. So the x, so if I want to look at how I can figure out the negatives, positives again, if I start from going along the x-axis first, so that's this line. So if I start from here, go to the right, that's a positive 3 for the denominator. And then here I'm going up 12, so that's also positive because I went upwards. And this one will give us a gradient of 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now we have this as the equation of a line. Y equals 4x minus 9. Now, just one little thing I would like to point out is if the gradient doesn't end up a nice division like this, you can leave it as a fraction. So for example, if you end up with something like 2/3, just leave it as y equals 2/3 x, and so on.